Today, President Trump is pushing the restart button when it comes to talks with Iran. He writes on social media that Iran asked to continue talks and that the U.S. has agreed to do so, but then also said that Washington has informed Tehran that the ceasefire is over. A diplomat tells CNN that Qatari negotiators are in Iran pushing to de-escalate the situation. A top U.S. official says the U.S. is deliberately striking and then pausing to allow gaps for diplomacy to restart. All this unfolding as sources tell CNN that Israel learned of an Iranian plot to kill the president. Trump posted, or rather told the New York Post today, that he's left instructions for the U.S. to respond with overwhelming military force if Tehran were to succeed.
Well, right now it seems like a lot of back-channeling is what's going on. Qatari negotiators have gone over to Iran. This is a trip that they coordinated with the United States, and they are meeting with Iranian officials to try and get things back on track. They want to de-escalate the situation and really set the table for bringing back those U.S.-Iran negotiations. On top of that, we have a new statement from the Pakistani Prime Minister saying that he talked to the Iranian president today. He is stressing all sides de-escalate currently, but it does sound like there are a lot of different forces working here trying to reopen those channels of communication. And President Trump, of course, as you showed earlier, posted on Truth Social that while these talks are ongoing only because Tehran asked, he says that in no uncertain terms, he's stated to them that the ceasefire is over. Well, this does open the door to a number of questions, because one of the things you have to keep in mind here is that there were certain terms of the ceasefire that both sides were abiding by. For example, one of them was that Iran was meant to try and assist ships, or at least not actively attack them, commercial vessels that were going through the Strait of Hormuz. If the ceasefire is over, does that mean we're going to see more attacks on ships? Obviously, the U.S. in return was going to remove the naval blockade and lift sanctions. We've seen them already reimpose sanctions, and then again, just moments ago, they imposed another round of sanctions, this time on what they called a financial facilitator who controls global assets for the leader of Iran. So we, the United States, seem to no longer be abiding by the rules of those ceasefire. But what does that mean for the actual danger in the Strait of Hormuz? That is something we haven't gotten to the bottom of yet.
And Kristen, in light of all of this, we're also learning about new fortifications being added to the White House. What are you seeing?
Yeah, well, what I'm seeing is directly behind me, it might look like this is the White House, but it's actually a giant tarp that is hanging down, which I know we've reported on, that is a direct replica of what the White House looks like. They actually did quite a good job, I mean, unless you're looking closely. And this is blocking off what they're doing behind it, which is restoring columns, but also fortifying the main entrance, adding an extra level of security. So we talked to sources who said, yes, most of President Trump's projects at the White House are done because he likes the aesthetics. This one is also being done because they need more security. And of course, as you noted, this comes on off of the reporting that we have that Israeli intelligence alerted President Trump to a fresh Iranian assassination plot. We obviously saw him changing planes and taking extra precautions around this information.
Desire to change the birthright citizenship rule within our Constitution is gaining traction among some voters, that Donald Trump might have changed people's minds on it. He did try to demand that Congress do something about it. That would be a heavy lift as well. But you see this going anywhere in Congress with Republicans?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's not a short-term prospect, but as you pointed out, over time, the unthinkable can definitely become thinkable because we're having this conversation in the second term of Donald Trump's presidency, right? And, you know, look at how long it took for Republicans to achieve the goal of a Supreme Court that would roll back Roe versus Wade. It took, you know, decades of organizing and influencing the Supreme Court. Now they're starting out far ahead. I must say, Katie, on this one, the ruling was much closer than people expected it to be in birthright citizenship, right? I think that up until the last few years and the already Trump transformation of the Supreme Court, we might have expected a 9-0 ruling or a, 8-1 ruling, 8-2 or 7-2 ruling, something very overwhelming. That's not what happened here. So, in some sense, people like Trump and those in his administration who support this, they're only one Supreme Court vote away from changing the outcome of birthright citizenship. So I think you're right to point out it's not necessarily going away in a longer term sense, although for right now, the Supreme Court is obviously not going to revisit a ruling that it has just spent so much time and effort to issue in this term. That's not going to happen in the short term.
How problematic is it going to be if Donald Trump decides to tap people like the figures who he has already tapped, 2020 election deniers, people like Kurt Olson, again, one original 2020 election denier, who has now taken on the imprimatur of the state in an official capacity at the Justice Department. What does that mean for our elections and the way the EAC works with states going forward?
Well, you're right that this brazen move is part of a concerted campaign by the administration to undermine the elections. And it's worth remembering just how extraordinary that is. That has not ever happened before in American history, that the federal government would act this way toward the states and toward elections. The EAC, as Secretary Fontes says, doesn't have that much power to do things without any commissioners. It will not be able to do much. And while it is theoretically possible that he could nominate 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats, would be where he would find them, and the Senate would then need to act, it's pretty unlikely that those seats will be filled by Election Day. The one thing to remember, and it's an encouraging thing, he is flailing at this point. He has this strategy, and each move that he has made has been blocked in large measure by people, voters, citizens, states going to court and other things. The steps he has tried to take up until now with the EAC, he had an executive order last year purporting to order the EAC to do all this stuff. That has been blocked nationwide by the federal courts. So he is right now 0-11 when it comes to court rulings, and the election's getting closer. And I do think that if we all do what we need to do, we can have free and fair elections this year. The key thing is that voters need to make a plan to vote and vote early if they can, and not get scared off by all this noise and nonsense.
Despite having all levers of power at his disposal right now and finding nothing, no vast conspiracy theory, not winning anything in the courts, there is this news this week from the Arizona Mirror, a DOJ letter threatening Arizona election officials with prosecution, as Fontes calls it, intimidation. I'll read a quick excerpt. The U.S. Department of Justice on Tuesday sent a letter to the Arizona Secretary of State's office threatening to prosecute election officials who knowingly count the ballots of non-citizens or keep them on voter rolls. A near identical letter was sent to more than a dozen other states on Tuesday, ranging from Democrat-led Michigan to deep red states like Georgia and Tennessee. Secretary, I'm wondering how you received this message, whether you think it is sort of implicitly a sign that the administration recognizes that they're not going to be able to fulfill this 2020 conspiracy theory and are instead pivoting to these one-off prosecutions and trying to make sort of as many individual arrests as possible, get some scalps, show them to the boss, and potentially hang on to their jobs and their positions of power? Or do you think that this is strictly an intimidation mechanism?
No, there's nothing implicit about this. Was an explicit threat to elections officials across the United States of America. But here's the other thing about it, and I heard the word desperate come up a couple of times. Here's how desperate these attempts to stop us from doing our jobs on behalf of voters are. That same letter was sent to North Dakota and North Carolina, a Republican and a Democratic Secretary of State. They don't have anything to do with elections at all whatsoever. They don't do voter registration. They don't do ballots, nothing. And so what we have here is this flailing administration really pulling out all the stops here. And, it's comical and really kind of laughable, because in it, they basically said even you as the chief election officer might be subject to criminal prosecution. Guess what, guys? The statutes that you mentioned in your letter don't apply to me because I don't do voter registration. The counties in Arizona do. And I sent them a letter when they first wanted my voter rolls, and explained to them exactly how voter registration works. I pointed to the elections procedures manual in Arizona, gave them everything they would have needed to become familiar with how Arizona's elections work. This is a desperate attempt by the Department of Justice, and we've got a really dangerous pattern building here. The Slaughter decision was about the FTC. This decision is about the EAC, the firing of independent parts of our government. Take a step back and look at all of the other independent agencies that we have that impact business, education, the law, medicine, technology, all of the other sectors of our society. This is really bad for business. If you're investing in America, do you want to invest in this uncertainty? Do you want to invest in not knowing exactly who's going to be doing what and the potential upheaval every single time we get a new executive? This is just bad governance when you look at the bigger picture. And I don't think that this is what's going to make our next 250 years as amazing as the last 250 have been. I think this hurts us as a nation that can govern itself well and be the stable guiding force that the world needs right now. And so we are being weakened by this administration, certainly in where our elections are concerned, as we're talking.
We just had a little systems crash at the end, but that's Adrian. That's Adrian Fontes out there in Arizona, a cartel lawyer lecturing President Trump on what is good for business. And look at these guys, Marxist jihadists, and Fontes is one of the best as being a crook, right? A cartel lawyer, renowned cartel lawyer. And because the cartels got huge influence in Arizona with the money they launder through there and the real estate they buy. And Fontes is going to argue about the free and fair elections in Maricopa County. And then he's going to tell you, no, it's bad for business. Really, this is, Trump. Who's going to invest in the United States when you have a guy like President Trump's trying to get to the bottom of the stolen elections of 2020 and beyond, Adrian? Beautiful. Friday, 10 July, year of our Lord, 2026. Okay, so we're back up and at it in Persia. I don't understand when they said we're putting additional sanctions on. How about this? Scott, Treasury, everybody, all sanctions right now. You shouldn't have a thing where, hey, they even put an additional sanction on some guy that's money laundering for them. All sanctions all the time right now and don't let the Europeans off the hook. Don't let them slip around. Don't let France and Italy and the UK, these slippery folks, because they're very slippery, our allies, very slippery, to get around and start trading with the Persians. Shut it all down. Don't put our kids in harm's way. I think we got to carry a battle group that's up in the Gulf of Oman now, even closer to the action than the North Arabian Sea. Don't put our kids in harm's way. Shut them down. Let's starve them out. No cash, no food, nothing comes in, nothing comes out. You got two carrier battle groups out there. No ship can get to the Gulf of Oman. No ship can get to the Strait of Hormuz unless the United States Navy deems it so. They were taking ships out, 100 ships with the oil and letting them sell the oil? None of that. Stop it. No. Economic warfare. No cash, no food, no trade, no oil, no CCP money, and destroy their currency. Let's see how tough these guys are. Let's see how tough they are. Scott Besser's out today say, hey, the Ayatollah, the new Ayatollah, his regime's crashing. Well, let's crash it harder. Let's crash it quicker. No need to bomb anything else. No need to put any more servicemen in harm's way. Crash the economy. The Persian people, when they start starving, they get hangry, they'll take to the streets and overthrow it themselves. Let them deal with it. They brought it in here. Hey, let's be blunt. But 47 years ago, they threw us out. They threw us out with the Shah and everything. The West wanted nothing to do with it. They wanted an Islamic regime. Well, baby, they got an Islamic regime. You deal with it. It's your problem. You brought it on yourself. You've been saying death to America? Fine. Dance in the streets, say it all you want. But you're not going to get any food. You're not going to have any cash. See what the mullahs are doing for you then. See what the Ayatollah is doing for you then. See how Islam's taking care of you. You feeling good? You like it? You like living in poverty? Starve them out. If we're at war, let's go to war. Economic warfare. Get all the sanctions. Until anybody slips around it, we're going to put a sanction on you. No oil for the CCP. No cash for the mullahs. On a Friday afternoon in the war room. Short commercial break. Back in a moment.
This is sex. There's louder sex.
Our country is under attack. The radical left woke agenda is in.
Great again. Hi, my name is Tracy Elk with Arizona. I don't stink around in the kitchen when it comes to the news. I watch Real America's Voice, which always serves accurate and reliable updates that are on point with their amazing hosts. So don't find yourself in a pickle by tuning into the fake news. Stick with Real America's Voice.
Lazar Garcianovich here from Japan. Love Real America's Voice, real news, honest views, and love seeing everyone there. God bless America.
This is Diane from Rhode Island. Why do I love Real America's Voice? Because they deliver us facts from hosts who love America and love God. What's not to like?
Hey guys, my name is Jeff. I'm from Massachusetts. I love RAV because of the free speech and the political wranglings that go on in the chat every day.
Engine rooms have been saying, hey, the Persian people, they're so tough, they'll eat grass. This is what Mao said about the Chinese. And a lot of that's true. These people have been through a lot. But how about this? Let's take a time out on 5D chess. No more 5D. Let's put a ban on 5D chess. Let's just shut the freaking thing down. Let's be simple. Nothing comes in, nothing goes out. They don't monetize anything. They don't get anything. They don't get any food. They get no cash to buy food. Those assets, and Scott said today he's going to protect the assets for the Iranian people. Hang on for a second. Scott, I understand that. The assets throughout the world, not going to let the mullahs get to, but I don't know. I think the American citizens have a claim on it first. You got Pete up there with $88 billion, got to pay for this. What are we going to do, just print more money and put the United States citizens in more thing? How about this, Scott? Let's just have a preference. You do this, you're a great deal guy. Let's have a preference. We take the first, 50. We get the first 50 billion, and then we'll hold it for the time that they overthrow this theocratic regime. And maybe you invest it for them, or maybe you put it in T-bills, government securities, help you refinance this massive debt we got. 88, but they got the second or third reconciliation. I forget it. I lose count. It's $350 billion. We've already run in the first 9 months. I'll get to this tomorrow. The first 9 months, $1.4 trillion deficit. Who said that? Oh gosh, I think War Room said that back when we first did the CR last year. They kicked the can down the road. We're 1.4 trillion, and we're going to be 2 trillion come September 30th. Who's paying for that? And the higher interest rates, citizens of these United States. So how about this? They have $100 billion throughout the world. And listen, yes, they've worked hard. It's kind of their money. Tough break. We got 2 carrier battle groups and kids from all over the country, young men and women in those battle groups. One of them was 200 days to sea. Come on, man. The top 50 is ours. I don't care if they starve. I want them to starve. You know why? When they start starving, all of a sudden, the Ayatollah and the mullahs and all this crap they put out, or, Islam's so great. Hey, see if Islam's so great when your belly's empty. If we're going to be at war, let's go to war. Let's stop dragging it out. And we don't have to bomb them back to the Stone Age. Starve them. Cut off all access and tell anybody in the world is going to double deal us and cut around and try to trade with them, you're going to get the same treatment. Scott Bessent today talked to the president and take down their currency, the same thing you did in January. Let's get them out in the streets. The Persian people are used to trying to have a middle class. 92 million folks, dude. This is a big, big country. It's like the surface of the moon. It's huge. It's massive. Okay? Massive. Been around a long time, taken on, all come, been fighting for Greece forever, Rome forever, stared down the British. Now it's the Americans. They threw us out. Look, I understand it's horrible what they're going through, but no offense. Their parents and their grandparents and some of them threw us out 47 years. You had it. You had a shot. The Shah was trying to bring you into the West. You didn't like it. You didn't want it. Okay, I got that. I understand it. You didn't want it with Greece. You didn't want it with Rome. I got it. I got it. You got your own deal. But you're going to suck on your own deal. Embrace your own deal. Embrace the suck. Let's bring them to their knees economically. Bring them to their knees economically, and let's hear all the tough talk. I'll get to the Israeli side. Turns out the Wall Street Journal's got the whole thing about the plane and doubling the plane because Israeli intelligence got Pompeo out there. So amazing, the exquisite intelligence about about they're trying to assassinate the president. And of course, in the Wall Street Journal article, they said the intelligence was not deemed by most, to be credible, and looked at, and I think I'm quoting, looked at as another effort to continue the United States as a combatant. When are we going to wise up? It's an opportunity cost, a massive opportunity cost. And it's inextricably linked to our next story. And that is this situation in Provo, Utah. Wendy Patrick's with. In fact, here's what I like to do in the chats. I'm going to try to do something totally different. We got all these different chats. You got Getter, you got the Rumble crowd. It's not happy hour yet, Rumble. Hang on. Back off there. I want all the different chats. If you're so inclined, after Wendy finishes, I want you to pitch in and give us your opinion. Grace and Mo and Elizabeth and the team will monitor this, and maybe we read some tomorrow. How about that? I want your opinion of what should happen here. So, Wendy, what is the basic choice? We did gavel-to-gavel coverage because we owe that to Charlie. Charlie was a colleague here. He was, had a show at 12 noon, which they still have. We still pitched to him. And we felt, the Rob and Parker Sig, myself and others here at the channel felt that we needed to do gavel to gavel. We could not break in our coverage to watch the entire thing so the audience could see, and for those so inclined to want to stick through the whole thing, that they could see all of it. What is your assessment of where we are today? And what is actually, if this was kind of close to a grand jury as you can get, right? I know it's different, it's totally different. What is the audience voting for? If they were grand jury members, what should be their either affirmation, either say, yes, I think it should go to trial, or no, I don't think there's enough evidence, and we just ought to tell the police, go look for somebody else, ma'am?
No, there's as the prosecutor said, I'm going to quote his words, there is an overwhelming amount of evidence. It is devastating. That's what the prosecutor said in court today. Why did he say that? Because despite the bar being so low, just probable cause, they spent 5 days introducing every kind of evidence you can imagine, from ballistics to forensics to DNA to finally.
But hang on one second. On Wall Street, we call that talking your book. He's supposed to say that. His whole career. If he doesn't get past this wicket, career over, right? So he's going to tell me that it's overwhelming evidence. And Wall Street's called talking your book. Isn't he just talking his book, ma'am?
No, he's talking about the last 5 days, because that's the difference. Prosecutors can't just get into court and argue. Neither can defense attorneys. They have to have evidence. They have to solidify everything they claim to have done by being able to cite to evidence. And Steve, that's what they did this week. I do expect it to be a bind over. But one thing that I think is going to be interesting is, now that we know the judge set a briefing schedule and a September 1st date to actually make that decision, what we're going to see in that briefing and what we're going to hear in oral argument on September 1st is going to be both sides arguing what they think about what came out at prelim. And that's where I think the defense is going to have to show their hand a little bit more. They're going to have to articulate where they feel the evidence is lacking. That's a preview for the trial. The trial is going to be markedly different in every way from the prelim. I mean, think about it. Lance Twiggs is going to have to be on the stand.
Hang on a second. Explain to people, what do you mean by that? They just sat through 5 days. And I think most people that are new to this thought it was pretty, you got into a lot of detail. And in fact, you kind of argued back and forth. So how is a trial going to be technically different than what the audience just sat through?
What the audience just sat through is just a teaser of the type of evidence that's going to be admitted at trial. Each one of those areas that they heard during the last 5 days, the bullets, the gun, the scene, the video footage, the testimony from the lover, roommate, all of that is going to be expanded into a much larger trial. It's going to be a battle of the experts, no doubt, with each and every piece of forensic evidence. You heard a little bit of that today when it came to the ballistics. You're going to hear it with respect to the DNA. You're going to hear the identification issues. How do you see who's on the video? How do you connect all the dots, linking it to Tyler Robinson? And one of the most significant ways where it will be different is you're not going to be able to use hearsay. So as I was saying, think about this, Steve, you're actually going to have the roommate, Lance Twiggs, in person on the witness stand, subject to cross-examination, not just the softball questions you saw in the Zoom interview, but subject to full cross-examination, as with everybody else. So that's one of the ways it's going to be different, not to even mention the way in which we're going to have to deal with a jury pool, given the fact that there will probably be cameras in the courtroom yet again.
Is Lance Twiggs, does he have immunity to testify here? I mean, does he have any threat at all of prosecution, either as a co-conspirator or as an accomplice, ma'am?
Only if he perjures himself. That's probably why you saw that stiff and stilted interview of him in a suit being just so measured. So he has use immunity, meaning he will have immunity from prosecution based on what he says when he's on the stand, but only if he tells the truth. And that is tough. That's one of the reasons he has to be so careful in answering those questions. But remember what he does. He ties together a lot of other pieces of evidence. So the defense is going to have an opportunity to test every bit of the evidence you saw at prelim in a much more formalistic and extended manner than they did this week. The judge kept reminding both sides it's a probable cause hearing, but he won't be reminding them of that at trial because that burden is proof beyond a reasonable doubt.
Can you hang on for 1 second? I want to continue this conversation. Obviously, it was very controversial this week for many parties, so I want to make sure we drill down on this. Talk about these briefing schedules going to happen between now and September 1st and what the judge really has to make a decision, and then kind of your thoughts as we go forward. Was anything missed? Was any foundational element not laid out? And your thoughts about trial or plea bargain, anything like that. Just hang on right there, Wendy. You've done such a great job. For everybody. It ends today, the special from Birch Gold. I was trying to get Philip Patrick up there. It was so jammed. I think I may get Philip on tomorrow. I'm going to talk a lot about this deficit. $1.4 trillion through the first 9 months. And get ready for it, folks. We're going to get a CR. No appropriations bills have been passed. None of the guys over in the House in the Senate want to cut spending. We got the same problem, the exact same problem. Birch Gold, take your phone. I think this is the easiest way. Birch Gold, Bannon, Bannon, 989898. You get to Birch Gold, and you get all kind of access to information, the ultimate guide for investing in precious metals and gold. But you get the Philip Patrick team. They have a limited time until tonight. You do a qualifying purchase, and they'll tell you what that is. You get a free 1 ounce silver round. And it ain't a coin, it's a round. 9898 Bannon at 989898. Do it now.
When a cyber thief transfers the title of your home out of your name, it's a race against.
Tired of the radical left destroying our country? Looking for a real conservative alternative to the woke AARP? Meet AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens. Over 2 million strong, AMAC is fighting for faith, family, freedom, and our sacred Constitution. As a member, you get powerful everyday benefits. Huge discounts on travel, hotels, restaurants, shopping, and entertainment. Plus major savings on vision, dental, auto, home, and life insurance. We'll help you navigate Medicare and Social Security with honest America First guidance. Plus, you'll receive AMAC Magazine, uncensored news, legislative alerts, and real grassroots tools to make your voice heard and take our country back. Patriots, this is your moment. If you love America and want to defend it for the next generation, join the fight. Scan the QR code right now or go to amac.com/RAV. Fight back. Let's make America great again.
Now is the moment to put your brand in front of an engaged, loyal audience through Real America's Voice. When you advertise on Real America's Voice, you're not just running an ad, you're partnering with trusted voices like Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, and other influential hosts. Backed by millions of monthly listeners.
What's happening? Because of a Real Voice, man. I watch it all the time.
Real America's Voice rocks.
Real America's Voice gives sponsors the chance to put their product front and center, displayed on screen and highlighted by our anchors during exclusive segments and live events.
Head to freetrumpknife.com.
This means your brand becomes part of the conversation as it happens.
Secure your spot before it's too late.
Join us today and make your brand part of the news conversation that America's viewers trust. Real America's Voice, where your message is seen, heard, and remembered.
Hi, I'm Bridgie, and why do I love rap? Well, even out here in the cornfields of Iowa, I still need news I can depend on. That is Real America's Voice.
Lazar Garcianovich here from Japan. Love Real America's Voice, real news, honest views, and love seeing everyone there. God bless America.
My name is TJ Ash from Carbonville, Utah. Real America's Voice lets me express my conservative views without censorship or edit.
I hate to ask you to speculate, but I'm going to ask you to speculate. Given what you've seen in this preliminary, and you said at the beginning this was overwhelming, do you believe the defense will sit there and go, if we got the furry lover that's going to serve this guy up and he's got immunity, maybe we just try to cut a deal and save this kid's life? Or do you think they're going to think, hey, particularly in Salt Lake or in Utah, which is not the Utah I think that most people think it is, because it's some wild hombres out there. When we were out there, we were kind of shocked. Do you think they'll think, hey, we can get one or two jurors, all we need is one, and we can get one or two jurors? So do you think they're going to think to try to cop a plea to get him off the firing squad and into life, that maybe he gets some parole later? Or do they take the bet, given what you've seen and what you see, these strategic moves, that they feel they can get one person to go along with him, at least for a mistrial, ma'am?
I think they think it's a safer bet to try to save his life. So that would be probably what they're going to be aiming for. But here's the thing, Steve, that the prosecution may not have any incentive to think about a plea deal that would take the death penalty off the table. Now, we also know that because of the prosecutor's his sentiment about his own case. You know, the jury says prove it, but he may be thinking, I've shown so much at prelim, maybe the defense is going to recognize I have no incentive to offer that, because the Kirk family is very much on board with bringing justice for Charlie. So I can't imagine they would be interested in any kind of a plea deal. And that decision is one of the most collaborative decisions that any prosecutor makes as to whether or not to offer any kind of deal, especially
they would bring in just for our audience. They would bring in the widow. They would bring in Erica. They would bring in the family. They would talk to her before they offered some deal to see if she was comfortable with that, or at least not opposed to it.
Absolutely. You know, prosecution today, and especially in a case like this, will involve the victim and the victim's family. Remember, that's one of the competing interests.
But she said at the funeral, she said at the celebration of life that she forgave him. Would forgiving him take death penalty? I mean, I don't know how to interpret it, but when she said there, I forgive my killer, my husband's killer. And it kind of shocked most people, but it seemed like they had some support in that vast audience. It was like 40 or 50, 60,000 people, and another 40 spread at other venues. I think it was 100,000 people live. She said I believe she said at the time, I forgive the killer. Would that be harder? I mean, would that mean that she would be opposed to the death penalty if the prosecutor came to her?
No, she also said she wanted full justice for Charlie and was cooperating to the full extent of the law. And, okay. She's very gracious and she's Christian, just like the rest of us that understand the value of forgiveness. But there's also consequences for these actions. And that is one of the reasons, if what we believe of all of the rest of her statements, that she's completely cooperating with the prosecution. And there doesn't seem to be any incentive. Occasionally you'll have a case, Steve, where it would be overly traumatizing for certain types of witnesses to take the stand. We see that a lot in cases involving domestic violence, child abuse. This is not one of those cases where there would be that incentive. If anything, her presence every day at the prelim shows that she has that interest in seeing this through for full justice for Charlie. The defense has to recognize that as well, which is why that September 1st date will not only be important because we'll get to hear the arguments on both sides, but we hope they set a trial date. So we'll finally be able to see some justice for Charlie. And the Kirk family will have a date certain. Hopefully that'll begin.
Do you see, one more time, you've been great about these chess moves 5 in advance. Do you see anything on either side, prosecution or defense, that you're sitting there thinking that they're thinking we might have blown that? Any foundational element on either side do you think they didn't, that either of the parties did not pull off appropriately or adequately, I guess I should say?
I don't, but I like your question because it did give me some idea as to one of the biggest questions, some of the biggest questions in the trial. And one of them is, will the defendant testify? There are lots of cases where defendants have terrible criminal records. There is no way they would live through that on the stand. This isn't one of those cases. So that has to be one of the biggest questions the defense is asking. On the prosecution side, they're probably trying to figure out what additional experts should they get? Because they know a little bit about what the defense is going to say to poke holes in all the types of the evidence. And then on the defense side, the second question is there any kind of mental issues that won't be defenses to the case, but could potentially be a mitigant in terms of what they're going to argue in that he shouldn't get the death penalty? Because a jury is going to be deciding that as well.
What is the standard for besides finding him guilty and giving him life without parole in prison in Utah? Well, what would be the standard for the jury to say you got to face the firing squad?
Reasonable doubt is the standard at both the guilt phase and the penalty phase. The penalty phase is more about weighing aggravants and mitigants. And Steve, that includes all aspects of the case, everything from the defendant's behavior when he was arrested to the way in which he cased the scene beforehand, to the extent to which he went to try to get that rifle back, the statements he made, and everything else that will come out during the course of a trial. sometimes in a death phase, you get additional evidence, and that's going to be important for this jury. And it's also interesting you said firing squad, because I did a little research into how exactly would he be executed. And apparently it's the default method right now in Utah. I'm sure somebody will correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I read it was lethal injection, and only in cases where you don't have access to that, it'll be the firing squad. I also saw a lot of people talking about why method might matter in a case this significant, but the defense is going to pull out all the stops to make sure they do everything they can to investigate whether they could take that off the table before we get to trial.
In the next 6 weeks, these briefing papers are going to go back and forth. What should the audience be looking for? What are the key things that are going to be briefed? What's the judge looking for? And then what decisions on September 1st, he's going to hear some arguments, but what decisions does he have to make?
The decision he has to make is whether every charge and every allegation has been proven not by even a preponderance, but whether there's probable cause. But the fact that the defense asked to be able to do this lets me know that they have a variety of things they're going to argue in challenging the strength of the prosecution's evidence. That's why I see it as a little bit of a tip-off as to what they're going to be looking at for trial, what they're going to argue. I don't expect it's not going to be a bind over, but I do expect we're going to see a lot of their thought process and where they think the holes are in the case. They weren't afraid to show their hand to that extent during the probable cause hearing. The last two witnesses were basically grilled over whether or not their findings should be legitimate, should be reliable. And so we're probably going to see a lot more of that when we get to September 1st. Now, while we won't necessarily get to read everything beforehand, although I don't know whether they're going to be public or not, we'll get to hear the highlights and extended oral argument on September the 1st, followed, of course, by the judge's ruling.
Okay, so put that in your calendar. Obviously, Real America's Voice will have the first team out there, and we will cover that in detail. Just one note for the audience to think about. If this goes to trial, and it seems like it's going to go to trial, if it goes to trial, whatever the date is, will the basic public get more access to the autopsy, to ballistics, to actual videos of the assassination itself? Was this limited in what people were able to see? Will they have much more access to information at the trial?
Yes, this was limited in what the public is allowed to see. Part of the reason for that, Steve, is the judge, and no side wants this to happen. Nobody wants to see so much evidence out there right now that it taints the ability for the defendant to get a fair trial. It compromises the integrity of a conviction. So when we get to trial and those jurors are impaneled, then they'll be able to consider far more evidence and far more extensive evidence on everything, including the autopsy, the ballistic evidence, the video footage, the fatal shots. I mean, all of that is going to come in at trial because you don't have the same consideration of tainting a potential jury pool. That is the jury pool. So the answer is yes in every aspect of the case.
Of course, there's people that, let's be blunt, are just not buying this direction. Whatever their motivations are, whatever, they're just not. In the trial, given what they've set up today in this preliminary, will the defense have the opportunity? People are talking about microphones, other things that might have shot and killed Charlie. Will they have the option and range to start to bring that up, or will the judge just shut it down since it wasn't? They didn't take it on here in the preliminary. Are all those options to discuss various other things and other people that could have done this? Is that open for the defense, or would the judge just say, no, I'm ruling that out? You just got to stick to what was presented.
A judge is likely to rule that out unless the defense is able to introduce some credible, relevant, admissible evidence that any of those theories hold water. And you saw how hard it was to get even a single piece of evidence in at the probable cause hearing. Think about how much more difficult that's going to be when you're in a proceeding where the burden of proof is proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And they're not going to get jury instructions that are going to support any theory of a defense that there's no evidence to support. So I always tell everyone, please just watch the court proceedings and you'll get more of an idea as to what we do have that's admissible.
Would the defense have to present that here? Should they have done that on Tuesday or whatever? If they have all these different theories out there of the microphone and other options, I don't even know what they are, but they're voluminous. Was that the time to do it, to try to get it in then and have the judge rule on it? And if you miss that, then when you go to trial, he's going to say, hey, look, you had a shot, but you didn't do it. Where do we stand with admissibility and making foundational arguments about that?
No, the defense has no burden at either hearing. They had no obligation to present any sort of alternative theories at a probable cause hearing, and they have no obligation to present a defense at trial, and oftentimes they don't. This won't be one of those cases. They will have a robust defense at trial, but there's no obligation. There's no sense of losing an opportunity to present a defense simply because it didn't come up.
But what I'm saying, I'm focused on the microphone because over the last couple of days, that's gotten, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but it's gotten traction, buzz in certain communities. Will they have the opportunity at trial to start to put forward that, hey, there were other people here that had the incentive, there are other people here that had the access, there's other people that were closer, there's other people, and they can show their ballistics, but they can take the microphone theory and run with it, or is that automatically shut down?
I wouldn't say anything is automatically shut down if there's evidence to support it. It will be the subject of, no doubt, motions in limine because there's no sandbagging at trial. Both sides will be briefing very thoroughly what they will and won't want to introduce, and even the scope of the questions during cross-examination, because, Steve, it could come up there as well. In other words, sometimes if they had enough to go on, a good faith basis, these things exist, they may be able to ask and cross. But what they're not allowed to do is ask questions in bad faith. So all these issues, all these theories, they'll probably be looking to see if there's any evidence, anything to support those theories. And if they find that evidence, they can ask for that to be admissible in trial. And we would hear something to that effect. They have probably about a year to look for it, and we'll know more about that as the months progress.
Okay. Wendy, hang on. I'll hold you through one more break. I want to talk about your content. Birch Gold, End of the Dollar Empire. I'm going to talk about it tomorrow. We got 1.6 trillion. I don't think it's 1.9. 1.6 trillion deficit already added to the national debt of our spending. It's going to get worse by September 30th. The question is going to be, how are you going to finance it? Scott Besson's got to deal with that every day. So we'll discuss all that. I think it's time, if you haven't done it, we've given you the opportunity, the End of the Dollar Empire, birchgold.com, promo code War Room, or is it promo code Bannon? I think it's promo code Bannon. Wow. Promo code, thank you. Promo code Bannon. / Bannon. Mo Bannon, give me stink eye right there already. Thank you, Mo. / Bannon. It's totally free, no obligation. Find out about fiat currency. Find out about global capital markets. Find out why gold has been a hedge for 5,000 years of mankind's history. Short break. Back in a moment.
We will fight till they're all gone. We rejoice when there's no more. Let's take down the CCP.
Tired of the radical left destroying our country? Looking for a real conservative alternative to the woke AARP? Meet AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens. Over 2 million strong, AMAC is fighting for faith, family, freedom, and our sacred Constitution. As a member, you get powerful everyday benefits. Huge discounts on travel, hotels, restaurants, shopping, and entertainment. Plus major savings on vision, dental, auto, home, and life insurance. We'll help you navigate Medicare and Social Security with honest America First guidance. Plus, you'll receive AMAC Magazine, uncensored news, legislative alerts, and real grassroots tools to make your voice heard and take our country back. Patriots, this is your moment. If you love America and want to defend it for the next generation, join the fight. Scan the QR code right now or go to amac.com/RAV. Fight back. Let's make America great again.
Now is the moment to put your brand in front of an engaged, loyal audience through Real America's Voice. When you advertise on Real America's Voice, you're not just running an ad, you're partnering with trusted voices like Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, and other influential hosts. Backed by millions of monthly listeners.
What's happening? Because of the Real Voice, man. I watch it all the time.
Real America's Voice rocks.
Real America's Voice gives sponsors the chance to put their product front and center, displayed on screen and highlighted by our anchors during exclusive segments and live events.
Head to freetrumpknife.com.
This means your brand becomes part of the conversation as it happens.
Secure your spot before it's too late.
Join us today and make your brand part of the news conversation that America's viewers trust. Real America's Voice, where your message is seen, heard, and remembered.
Hi, I'm Bridgie. And why do I love Rob? Well, even out here in the cornfields of Iowa, I still need news I can depend on. That is Real America's Voice.
Lazar Garcianovich here from Japan. Love Real America's Voice, real news, honest views, and love seeing everyone there. God bless America.
My name is TJ Ash from Carbonville, Utah. Real America's Voice lets me express my conservative views without censorship or edit.
You're going to keep us up to date on all these filings. We'll have you back on. I want to thank you from the entire Real America Voice family and all our audience. Great job. Thank you so much for keeping up to date. You've also got your own content. What is it? Where is it? And where do people go?
Thank you. In addition to my website, wendypatrickphd.com, I have 3 books I've written over the last 15 or so years. One is Reading People. It's a Random House publication. Red Flags, threat assessment book by St. Martin's Press. And my most recent book is called Why Bad Looks Good. It's a Christian book. It's about biblical wisdom to make smart decisions in life, love, and friendship. So check them out. All of them are available on Amazon. Thank you.
St. Martin's Press, very classy for those who know the book world. Thank you, ma'am. Look forward. I'll talk to you over the weekend. Maybe there's a book in this trial. You never know. You've been covering it so closely. We'll come back and talk to you. Wendy Patrick, thank you so much. Tej Gill, Tej, this thing never ends. Give me a minute. Your thoughts. Tel Aviv Levin's bitching and moaning that the Marines aren't doing enough fighting and they got to have troops and we're not combat troops. Your thoughts, before you tell me about the greatest coffee in the world, your thoughts about the war in Iran.
Yeah, I think we're doing more than anybody else. We just bombed 90 targets in the last couple of days. We're pounding the hell out of them. And then before that, we bombed them for, almost 8 weeks straight. And how much money have we spent? How much money have Levin and Israel spent? You can do the math on that. I think what's going to happen now is Trump's trying to bomb them into submission or bomb them back to the table to sign this MOU. And we will see how much pain Iran can endure.
The MOU is DOA. We just got to move past
it's
that.
DOA.
They're never going to sign anything.
Right.
Trita told us months ago they're never going to sign anything. It's the Persians. They're going to negotiate. They're going to negotiate about their rugs for years. So you're not going to get a sign.
Right.
We're not pulling the Missouri into Bandar Abbas to have a surrender ceremony. Let's just get beyond that and get to the practical. What do you think? Give me a minute on the practical before I go to sell some coffee.
The practical is, I think we're in it so far now. We have to finish the job. I don't know if you can do it with air power alone. Might have to put troops on the ground, which I don't want to see. But I don't know how else to do it. You can just keep bombing them and bombing them and bombing them.
I'm not going to. I love you so much. I'm not going to ruin my weekend by even thinking about this. Tell me about the best coffee in the world. You're no longer a gunman. You're now the barista. Tell me about the greatest coffee in the world.
It's warpath.coffee. The website is warpath.coffee, and use promo code WARROOM for 15% off right now. If you haven't tried it, try it. We roast it on a perforated drum. We don't burn it at all, so you can drink it straight black. And like most roasters, let's say 9 out of 10 roasters burn their coffee. That's why it's served with milk and sugar. Our coffee, you can drink it straight black. It is the best coffee. We have over 19,000 5-star reviews between our website and Amazon. People absolutely love this coffee. We have a cult following. I would say it's the best coffee out there. So if you haven't tried it, try it. It's warpath.coffee and use promo code WARROOM.
You got to drink it black. So Tej, before I let you go, are you really pitching me? Are you pitching the Warren Posse on a Friday? We just got through the Charlie Kirk murder trial. You're pitching me on combat troops in Iran. Is this what you're doing to me?
I said
you're doing just to trigger me. Okay.
I don't want to see it.
Okay, you don't okay.
I don't know how long we can bomb them until these people are so used to living in pain. You know, we've been since the early 80s, since the Islamic Revolution, we've had sanctions on them, you know, that we've hurt them economically with trades, everything. So they're tough people, as we can see. I mean, we've bombed the crap out of them since February 28th, and they still haven't tapped out. So
they haven't tapped out.
I don't know what you do at this point. Either keep bombing them or make a deal and get out.
I got a solution. Let's bring them to their knees economically. I mean, full on. Destroy the currency, no food. Let's quarantine. Let's put a naval quarantine there. You can do that easily. Nobody comes over inland. If they come overland, you hit them. By the way, if they ever start doing nuclear again, just send over the Strategic Air Command. Boom, just do that. But the war's over. We're gonna get on for rebuilding our economy. Tej, I'll talk to you afterwards. Maybe get you back. Maybe get you back on tomorrow. Your coffee's amazing. Best ever. You got to drink it black. Tej made this coffee to drink black. Mike Lindell, is it live or is it Memorex? Okay, Mike Lindell, say something. I want to see if the audience is good enough to see if you're live or not. Talk to me.
Well, Steve, I'm not going to be the next Johnny Cash, but the procedure was a success. So, everybody, the reason I wasn't here, I had some procedures done on my vocal cords, and but it all looks great. It was a huge success, and I'm back speaking, and everything's great.
Talk to me about, I'm going to get to your campaign because you've been doing great, but what people want to see on a Friday afternoon is deals. We've had a tough week. People sat through the evidentiary trial of Charlie Kirk. We had massive attendance. People really paid attention. Now we got the war revving back up. So everybody's a little like, what are we doing here? Save us with a great deal from My Pillow, sir.
Well, it's the deal that only comes around once every 250 years, everybody, and it's coming to an end. This is it. These are the made in USA products that My Pillow's been making for a long time, since 2005. We've sold over 85 million My Pillows, and this is the lowest price in the history of My Pillow. Like I say, once every 250 years, free shipping on your entire order. The king size My Pillow premiums, only $19.98 with that promo code War Room. Queen size $18.98. Standard size $14.98. Then you got the My Pillow mattresses, 50% off. The best sleep of your life. You guys got to try these mattresses. They're absolutely amazing. I sleep on one every night. And then you have the My Pillow mattress toppers, as low as $99.98. But you have body pillows, bolster pillows, go anywhere pillows. And by the way, the bolsters and the bodies come with a free pillowcase. But there you see it combined. You go to mypillow.com/war room. You see all the made in the USA products there. You see the cross that I wear. Crosses, you save up to $80 with that promo code War Room. You guys call 800-873-1062. Free shipping on your entire order. This is it, you guys. It only comes once every 250 years. And enjoy it. Get it this weekend. Get it right now. Promo code War Room.
Okay, take care of that voice, Mike. Seriously, you've given too much to this community, too much to the country. We got to make sure you're not damaging yourself. Take care of that voice. People love you, man. You're in for the long. You're playing the long game, brother. One of the greatest patriots out there. Also, tomorrow we're finally going to have a show. We're going to talk about Pulte. We're going to talk about Solomon. We're going to talk about voter fraud. We're going to talk about the great heroes from Georgia to Michigan. Maybe Wisconsin, maybe Arizona. You don't know where we're going. Do not miss tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time.
What if I told you you could get a brand new metal roof and save 50% off the installation?
Tired of the radical left destroying our country? Looking for a real conservative alternative to the woke AARP? Meet AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens. Over 2 million strong, AMAC is fighting for faith, family, freedom, and our sacred Constitution. As a member, you get powerful everyday benefits. Huge discounts on travel, hotels, restaurants, shopping, and entertainment. Plus major savings on vision, dental, auto, home, and life insurance. We'll help you navigate Medicare and Social Security with honest America First guidance. Plus, you'll receive AMAC Magazine, uncensored news, legislative alerts, and real grassroots tools to make your voice heard and take our country back. Patriots, this is your moment. If you love America and want to defend it for the next generation, join the fight. Scan the QR code right now or go to amac.com/RAV. Fight back. Let's make America great again.
Sure, they spike you fast, then crash you hard. Fix it with Soldier Fuel, the official energy drink of Real America's Voice. Soldier Fuel was born in the military to solve a real problem. Troops were relying on sugary drinks that wreck performance, so they built a better option. Zero sugar and steady energy, powered by caffeine, taurine, inositol, and extra B vitamins for clean energy and focus. No roller coaster crash. This isn't gas station hype. Soldier Fuel was built alongside the U.S. military and proven where it counts. Used by American soldiers and elite special operations.
This is really good.
And when you fuel up, you give back. 15% of profits go to pro-military charities. Scan the QR code, search for Soldier Fuel on Amazon, or go to buysoldierfuel.com.